Hey guys, it's Sean. I'm here for another demonstration. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the Pathfinder tool. I left you guys a file called Pathfinder AI in your weekly sort of folders. And let's just jump right into it. I'm going to be sort of explaining why Pathfinder is one of the most powerful tools in Illustrator, why you definitely should be using it to create complex shapes, and how once you sort of understand how complex shapes or even really simple shapes can be made just by using a combination of different shapes, Pathfinder really helps to sort of speed all that processes along. So if you guys don't have the Pathfinder window open, what you can do is go up to Window, hit Pathfinder, and it'll open up this toolbox for you. It might have already been sitting on your right hand toolbar here, but just make sure you guys have it open. So Pathfinder basically does this thing where it takes shapes and it gives them different commands in order to create new shapes. So to sort of demonstrate that, I'm going to hit on select all of our unite shapes here, this circle and square. And I'm just going to come up here and click unite in the top left. And what you'll notice is it united both of those shapes into one shape. And when it does this, the shape that's on top of the layer stack, so the shape that is highest in the hierarchy up here, it is, so in this case, it's the green rectangle. That's the shape attribute that the new united shape is going to take. And the cool thing is when we look at Command Y on our keyboard to look at the wireframes or the paths of our shapes, you can tell that it gets rid of these extra anchor points that were in the middle, and it just creates one united shape. So moving along to minus front. If we click on minus front, you'll see that it subtracts the shape that is highest on the hierarchy, and it is leaving just the shape or the outline. It's removing the intersection is what I'm trying to say, and it's just leaving this sort of shape that was furthest back. So that is what minus front does. And now if we move on to intersect, you can kind of guess where this is going to go, and you can even kind of see the diagram here. It's going to remove everything that is outside of the intersection of these shapes, and it's going to leave you with just the interior shape. Exclude is going to kind of do the opposite. It's going to exclude what's within the intersection and leave you with what is outside of it. Kind of useful, but personally intersect has a few more uses to it than exclude does. And just to show you really quick why I think it has more uses, let's say you wanted to draw a leaf shape really quickly. So we can draw out a circle and we can sort of intersect it in the middle. We can select both and then come up here and click on intersect, and you can see you're already left with this perfect leaf shape. I'm just going to fill it with green so it's sort of easier to see. So you're left with this really great symmetrical, mathematically accurate leaf. This is obviously easier than trying to draw like an oval shape and then drag out the points in order to make sort of more of a mathematical or sort of more of a free-handed leaf shape. This kind of does the trick much quicker. So just a quick example of why Pathfinder is super powerful and super awesome. Coming down here to the divide tool, this is one of the most powerful ones you're going to use. And the reason for that, I'll get to in a little bit after we cover the rest of these, but this one's pretty awesome. So you can click on divide down here, and using our direct selection tool, we can come up and we can sort of pull apart these shapes, and you can see that it's divided them based on their intersection points. So in this case, this middle section, it's divided them based on their intersection points into different shapes. It's left all of them the same, and the intersection characteristics are being pulled from the sort of top shape on the layer stack here. Now, the cool thing about divide, or sort of the annoying thing I should say, is when you hit divide, it groups all of these shapes together. So if you weren't using the direct selection tool, you'd have to go and ungroup them, and then you have full autonomy over all the shapes that you just built. Moving on to trim. Trim sort of does a similar thing where it will get rid of the intersection but leave sort of both sides of the shape together in place. So I'm going to hit ungroup, and I'm just going to pull these guys apart really quickly. So you can see I'm left with Pac-Man sort of trying to eat a big square. Not going to work out that well for him, but you know, the feature's there. Merge. This is sort of an interesting one. It's really useful near the end of your illustration work if you find you have a lot of really complex paths, because it looks like it does the same thing as trim, but it's not necessarily. What it's actually doing is it's getting rid of all of the intersecting paths and merging them into their actual sort of shapes. So the shape that is on the top of the layer stack is going to remain fully intact regardless of how many shapes sort of intersect it, and the shape that is on the underneath or on the outside, that's where you're going to see the divide sort of happening in here. So if you were a little bit confused when you hit merge, that's actually the technical process that's happening here, and it looks like we're left with the same thing as trim, but it is slightly different. The next thing that we have to look at is crop. And if I come up here and I hit crop, it looks very much like intersect. It's kind of doing the same thing, except it's leaving you with this one exterior shape here as well. Sorry, intersect. Intersect did actually do the same thing, but also slightly different because it's leaving you with both of those shapes. Whoop. Sorry, let's come up to intersect. Intersect actually is not doing the same thing because it's not leaving you with this sort of exterior wall there. So just something to be aware of. Flipping between sort of path or wireframe mode and your actual drawing mode can be very useful because it lets you see all of the sort of hidden nitty-gritty pieces of your design that may or may not be filled. Like this doesn't actually have a fill or a stroke, it's just an empty shape, and you kind of want to avoid having those. It's sort of the difference between a professional designer and an amateur designer, you know? Outline does a really cool thing. It literally converts all your shapes to outlines, and it lets you go and instantly start adding nice strokes to it. This could be really useful if your design treatment requires everything to be outlined, and obviously the intersection is taking its sort of property commands from the shape that is highest on the hierarchy. So you kind of always want to be aware of what shape is on top of what to achieve the best results possible. And then finally, minus back does the exact opposite of minus front, and it sort of leaves you with this shape. This is the shape that is completely on top of everything because it's subtracting the shape that was behind it, and it's also subtracting the intersection point here, right? If we hit Command Y, you can see it didn't leave any extra sort of shapes at all. But one thing that I would like to show you, if we go back to crop, is I can select all of these sort of shapes here. Let me just make sure everything's selected. Yep, we are. And I can actually go up to Object, Path, Cleanup. And what cleanup will do is it gives you a few different options. It's going to delete any stray anchor points you may have made. It's going to delete any unpainted objects you might have made, and it's also going to delete any empty text paths that you might have made. I'm really guilty for this, where I'll click somewhere to go start typing and then realize, oh wait, I needed to double check something first, and then I leave it thinking that it didn't apply my text path, but it actually did, and it's just sitting there empty. So just something to be aware of. So if I hit OK, all of a sudden you can see it got rid of our empty path that was sitting here from the crop tool, and now we're left with something that's identical to intersect. And that sort of brings me to my next point. All of the Pathfinder options are really good. They're very intuitive and smart, but it's really tedious for us as designers to sort of have to think about absolutely everything that they do. If you had to remember, like, oh, exclude does this, and I don't know, crop does that, or intersect does that, it's kind of a bit of a headache. And this is why I wanted to talk about the divide tool for a second. So the divide tool, do I have two shapes that are, okay, good. Nope. Do I not have two shapes that, okay, cool. I have exclude, I think, I hope, right? Okay, cool. So the divide tool can be really powerful because it actually can achieve a lot of these functions just within itself. So if you have a spare set of shapes lying around, great. If not, maybe just draw out a couple of shapes similar to the circle and square and try and follow along. So what we can do is we can hit divide and we can hit ungroup. And what you can see is I can actually pretty quickly make minus front. I can also pretty quickly make intersect, just like so. I can make minus back. There it is. I could do probably what exclude does as well. Let me just use exclude really quickly. Yep, so I can achieve exclude as well. So you can see just from one command, we created 1, 2, 3, 4, technically 5 different features, right? So just something to be aware of. I personally find the divide tool to be one of the best, and for that purpose, I kind of only end up using unite, divide, and maybe merge every once in a while. But that's just me. Obviously, as you guys use these tools, you'll figure out which ones you like the best. I mean, intersect obviously has its benefits as well, so just pointing that one out. The other thing that I'd like to point out to you guys is under Pathfinder Options, and this is going to be really useful for divide. So what you can do is you can click on both of these guys, remove redundant points, and divide and outline will remove unpainted artwork. And what remove redundant points is going to do is if you have 2 points that are very close to each other within your path, when you go and use features like Unite, it will remove one of those paths, and it'll sort of help to tidy up stuff right away. This one, I'm going to demonstrate for you what it's actually going to do. So what I want to do is come off to the side here, and I'm going to create a couple of shapes. So I'm going to create a ellipse with a stroke of 25, and there we go. What I want to do is come to Object, Path, Outline Stroke, so that our circle here actually becomes a full-on object. I'm going to create a square, and I'm going to turn that square on its edge, and I'm going to create it a diamond technically, and I'm just going to sort of center it like so. And if we actually, for this example, don't follow along with me for 1 second. I'm just going to uncheck this option here to show you what would happen. So I'm going to hit divide, and when I hit divide, I can come over here, I can ungroup things, and I can pull apart individual shapes of this. And you can see that we're left with this sort of really cool shape here. And let's say for a second that I want to go and change the color from green to blue. All of a sudden, we are left with this really awkward sort of Pac-Man shape in here again. And the reason for that is when we hit divide, it filled in this space, or it didn't fill it in, but it created an extra shape that's unnecessary. So if I just undo until we're left back with our 2 separate shapes here. And I go back into Pathfinder Options and I check this box that we should all have checked for now. And I click on this guy, I hit divide, and we'll ungroup and just redo the process. So here's my first shape, here's my second shape, here's my third shape, and you can see that there is not going to be an awkward Pac-Man shape in the middle of all of this. It's not there, and we can accurately go in and change our colors without having to worry about Illustrator creating all of these sort of extra shapes. So I hope that you guys find that option useful to keep checked on, but again, it all comes down to personal preference and what you like to do best. So as a bit of an exercise, as a bit of homework, we have this star shape down here. And what's really cool about this star shape is it looks pretty cool. It's got, a sliced out sort of star section here. It's got another sliced off section here. But if we go into our paths, Command Y window, you can see it's a mess. It's an absolute disaster. And what I would like you guys to do is I would like you see if we pull it apart, we have like this awkward shape here. Everything about it's just weird. What I would like you to do is I would like you to sort of, use Pathfinder to retain this shape's style. So make sure that you have a gap between this edge, this triangular shape, and the main body of the star, and this edge of the shape and the main body of the star. I would like you to basically simplify this so that it's down to 3 shapes. It's down to this one, this main body one, and this one. And I'd like you to try and get rid of any extemporaneous paths that are lying around and just really clean this whole thing up. You can definitely achieve all this just by using these Pathfinder options here. So give it a go, see how it works, and if you guys have any problems, just let me know, and we can walk through it together later on, but hopefully you guys can manage to figure this one out solo. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya!